Hello and welcome to the Baby Loss Podcast with me, Gabriella Austin. This podcast is for bereaved parents like myself to share their story around baby loss and miscarriage. In this episode, I talked to my friend Fiona, who was a befriender in my SANS group. During Fiona's first pregnancy, she developed preeclampsia and her daughter Evie was born by emergency cesarean. Sadly, just 10 days later, Evie passed away. 1 year later, they made the decision to end their second pregnancy through a medically advised termination at 5 months gestation. Baby loss is unfortunately more common than people think and certainly more common than discussed. Whilst I would like to raise awareness around this taboo subject, my main aim is to provide parents with a safe place to talk about their babies wherever they may be in their journey. There is no judgment here and every journey is different. Welcome to the second series where we continue to tell the stories of our babies gone too soon. Trigger warning for this episode: discussion of baby loss, stillbirth, miscarriage, medical termination, emergency cesarean, preeclampsia, COVID-19, and contains explicit content. When you're ready, you can start telling me about your baby loss journey.
Yeah, well, gosh, it was like 11 years ago now that we lost Evie, which is unbelievable. I can't quite get my head around it really. But I met Andy when I was quite a bit older, and so we'd gone through IVF. Couldn't believe it when finally got pregnant, and I got preeclampsia, which I didn't really know. It's like anything, isn't it? You don't really know anything about these things until it happens to you. And so I just gone for a routine checkup, and obviously they do the blood test, whatever. And I think I was just totally naive. And she said, "Oh, you need to go to the hospital, and I'd suggest that you go home, park your car, and then go." So she obviously knew that I wasn't going to be coming back, and so I was admitted then into hospital. My blood pressure was sky high. Again, I was sort of in denial, kind of trying to hide in this little corner bed. Everything will be fine. Everything will be all right. And it just kept getting higher and higher and higher, and they were sort of coming through the night, checking it. And sort of after about a week, I think it was, it just got so bad that Andy had just been in to see me and just gone home, and they called me and came in and said, "You need to get him back. We're going to have to do an emergency cesarean." And I was like, "Oh, I can't call him. He's only just gone home." And I was still kind of a bit in denial, I think. And they said, "No, you need to call him, straight away and come back." And they said, "We're going to have to do an emergency cesarean." And I can remember the doctor, he was such a lovely, lovely guy. And he came in and he just said, was trying to explain what would happen. And I think, I can't even remember now what the chance, I think the chances were something like 9% chance that she would make it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I just can't believe what's happening. I just couldn't get my head around it. And so he said, and we might just pass her to you and you can give her a cuddle, and then, we'll. And I was like, oh my God, this isn't happening. And kept thinking that perhaps in the morning things would get better, but it just got worse basically. And so I had the emergency cesarean, and I think I think it's the first time ever I've been sick through fear, if you know what I mean. I just remember being really sick and thinking, why am I being sick? And then I think I realised I was just so terrified of what was going to happen. And then we tried to, Andy and I have sort of kind of always had sort of used humour as a way of getting through things.
Yeah.
And I can remember him just turning up in the scrubs to come in, and he had a pair of yellow Crocs on, and that's all I can remember, thinking, what are you wearing on your feet? And giving him this outfit to wear. And anyway, we went into and I just thought it was never gonna, it's just going to be hideous. And then just heard, I don't even know how long it was, heard this little cry, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, I just was expecting dead silence.
Yeah.
And there was this little cry and a bit of a kerfuffle, and I heard the surgeon go, "Oh, you're a little bit lively, aren't you?" or something. And so she'd actually made it through and survived. And it was probably, I can't even remember how many weeks now, but it was very, very early on, and got taken to obviously the baby unit at Brighton, which the Trevor Mann place, which was amazing.
Yep.
And I remember me and Andy were just looking at each other going, I can't, we just was expecting to be handed a dead baby, basically, which is just the most kind of bizarre thing. And we just couldn't believe it. And then each day she seemed to get stronger, but they were very, very good at managing our expectations, saying, baby's this young, that the infection, it's really hard to tell, we can only sort of really deal with it day by, hour by hour almost. And she was doing brilliant, really good. And about a week later, I then was I can't remember the name of the word when you, I was going to say
discharged.
They dispatched. But so then we kind of like got this route where I couldn't drive because of the cesarean, and we'd worked, my cousin had come to stay, and we worked out when we were going to be at visiting times, and then she was going to drive me back, and it was literally the first day that she arrived and we got called in, and Andy was working in London, and they said a sort of frantic phone call saying, there's something wrong, you need to come in. And basically sort of rushed in there to see them sort of doing CPR on this tiny little girl. And it was a thing that I couldn't get out of my head for years, this scene of like this tiny baby and trying to do CPR, and basically she didn't make it. And
Fiona, I'm so sorry.
No, it was like, it was just the saddest thing, because she was just doing so, and it was such a shock that she'd actually made it in the first place. We were just completely gobsmacked. But it was, it's just a surreal time now when you look back, and you just think you're never ever going to get over the loss and the pain of it all. And the people were amazing. The staff there were just absolutely amazing people. I couldn't thank them enough for their support. But it's just the most traumatic experience, isn't it? Like you can't describe it really. It's just total shock, really. And you're just so gutted, because you're kind of like you're just allowing yourself to believe that maybe she's going to make it, and
that little bit of hope.
Yeah. And because babies do, they do survive that, being born so early, and you hear these miracles, and you hope that your baby will be one, that makes it. But sadly it wasn't to be.
Oh, Fiona, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that you had seen the nurses performing CPR on Evie. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, do you know, I haven't talked about that for so long. I think I kind of blocked it out of my head for a while, because it was so traumatic.
Oh my goodness, there's so much I don't remember. Your brain does just kick it out. It files it away, and you just cannot remember.
Yeah, I think it's a way maybe of cope. You literally can't cope with it, so your brain just sort of deals with little bits of it. Tries to process it, and kind of, I can just remember being in this sort of waiting room, and this lady saying to me, "Don't cry, just pray. Don't cry, just pray." And I was like, I was just like, I didn't know what was going on, and it was all just happening like in slow motion. And I've heard people say that before, but
it was a nurse or a midwife was telling you to don't cry, just try and pray, or
it was another mother. I just remember kind of looking at her thinking, oh my God, you know, like, I didn't know what was going on. I just remember those words. It was really weird. And, but that, you know, it's so, because the nurses get so attached to the babies as well, you know, and so, you know, and everyone was just absolutely devastated. You know, I think, you know, every time they lose a baby, it hits them really badly.
So are you still on your own at this point, or had Andy managed to get to the hospital?
Yeah, Andy just about to get there just before, yeah, just because when he first arrived, we were just sort of ushered into a room, and they had like a sort of screen around. So, and it was then obviously when they realised that it was, you know, it was kind of not great, they called us in. Yeah, so yeah, but yeah, it was just the maddest. And I can remember ringing my cousin because she was at my house and saying, you know, she's not going to make it. Can you come? And I said, can you bring a cat? It was before, like, kind of like proper, you know, phone good with cameras. And I said, could you bring a camera? For some reason, I don't know why, I like thought we need to take some photos, but it was the most bizarre thought. I don't even know. My brain went into a logical kind of thing of like, okay, we need to do this, and yeah, we took, and it's so weird because I can remember the nurse saying, would you like to change you after she died? Would you like to change her? And I just couldn't do it. And it's so weird, isn't it? As you probably know from meetings and stuff, the different experiences that people go through. You know, some people wish they'd been able to do that, whereas I had the opportunity and I couldn't do it. And you know, we were never offered to stay overnight or anything with a cold cot, but I don't think I would have been able to. I don't think it would have even crossed my mind. I don't know. It's such a sort of kind of weird situations that you just don't know what the hell to do. But I wish now I'd just taken so many more photos before she died. You know, like, it's always, that's the only regret that I have from that sort of perspective, because she used to have these little kind of sunglasses on because they put on a lamp and a little, you know, they were so cute and really sort of sweet little things, and they used to put bubble wrap on her to keep warm. And it was like, oh, I thought I'd never be able to look at a bit of bubble wrap again, but fortunately, time is, you know, you can
see the bubble wrap now.
I can bubble wrap now. I can, well, rather than sad.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. One of the regrets I have as well is not taking enough photos.
Yeah, I know, it's mad, isn't it? And yeah, but you just don't know, you know, you just think, I don't know, you're just not thinking straight.
No, and you're so sad, and all I wanted to do was look at her. Like, I just wanted to look. I didn't want to keep looking through. I think I didn't want to look through a lens at her. I wanted to look directly at her.
Yeah. And I guess as well, there's that sort of thing in your head. It's like, why am I taking photos? It's just going to make me sad, you know, like if I, you know, or even look at them, you think, I guess as a person looking in, I would have probably thought, oh my God, why would you want to be taking photos? Especially after, you know, she died. You know, you just, but when it just seems the most natural thing to do when, you know, when you're going through it.
Yeah, I wish I had taken photos of my parents holding her.
Yeah.
Because now, 7.5 years later, I'd probably have them up in my lounge. Like, I feel like I'm at that place where I want them on display. My parents have got other grandchildren and they've got lots of photos of them, and it would just be nice to sort of like Isabella to be included. But that's okay, because at the time I wasn't thinking, and I would have made a video of her, you know, just sort of like,
that's the thing, isn't
I
it?
just think, oh, why didn't I do that? And you hear everybody's stories, like you say, from group and stuff, and my advice to people if I. Oh, it's tricky because obviously recently I've been in the position where I could give my opinion of taking photos.
Mm.
And yeah, I wish if people are listening and then they go through something as sad as we have, that yeah, just take lots of photos, because I know that we've heard a
Yeah.
group that they would rather they had them and never look at them than
Yeah.
not
They're
have
not.
them and then
Yeah.
never be able, because I feel like I can't remember what she looks like.
No, I yeah. But it's so weird because you can also see at the time, can't you? Think, well, why do I want to take photos? You know, like, why would I want to have photos of this awful thing that has either just happened or is about to happen? But you know, it's just any memory that you can have, isn't
Hmm.
it? Kind of keep and cherish. And you know, like you said about having photos up now, you know, it's because you're proud now, you know, like, you
Hmm.
know, you know, it's a proud moment rather than this awful thing that you need to hide away and pretend never happened. It's you almost want to have it on display. And
Yes,
you know,
and I think
say,
my mum is at that place now as well, because she actually has a picture of me holding Isabella up in the lounge.
oh, that's massive, that's really lovely, isn't it?
Yeah,
That-
and that just
that's,
makes me
yeah, burst with
happy. Hmm.
yeah, and
They
that's
have this old record player, and when you walk into the lounge, the record player is directly in front of you, and then yeah, there's a little framed picture of us.
oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had a clock made, um, sort of like a Moonpig card. I had a Moonpig clock. So there's pictures of us, like her children, and then her grandchildren. And one of the pictures is Isabella in a little. Um, she was put in a cardigan, a pink cardigan, at the hospital, but obviously it looks like a dress because she's so small.
Yeah.
So now that on the wall, there's a nice picture of her in her little pink dress.
Oh,
So,
that's so
yeah.
yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, with Evie, did you bury Evie, or um, was she cremated?
Yeah, we had a funeral. We had because I remember that times that them talking about I remember thinking, oh my God, I can't go through a funeral. I just can't do it. And then as the days went by, it kind of was like I almost felt like that she needed a send off, and I changed my mind completely to like just oh God Almighty, we can't go through that. We won't survive it. Do you know we yeah let's make it a really lovely little send off for her.
Mhm.
And so we had her cremated, and a couple of the nurses came actually to the ceremony, which was lovely. It was really touching. But yeah, but we've never known where to her ashes still. We've still got her ashes, and we just haven't.
Mm.
We can't decide what we want to do with them. You know, kind of I like the idea of somewhere to go and just sort of almost visit her. But I feel like she's kind of with us whatever we do, wherever we go. And I don't know, I'm sure one day it'll, the right thing will, you
Mhm.
know, into our heads. But yeah, she's,
Oh, I I envy people that have got their ashes at home,
yeah, yeah,
because I would just sort of keep her all to myself on my bedside table.
yeah.
But
I feel,
at the time we made the decision to have her buried, um, my dad my dad's a Maori, and Maoris are buried, and I would like to be buried. So it was a decision. It was the
yeah,
right decision, and I don't. I'm envious, but I don't regret burying her.
no,
If that
no,
makes sense.
yeah, you have to do what, you know, you just have to get through whatever way you can at the time. And whatever decision you made, you made for the right reason at that time, didn't you? And then you just have to go with it. And and there'll always be if you hadn't done that, you might regret now that you hadn't, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
You never know what the right thing is. The right thing is what you did at that time, isn't it? And
Because when
you
do you ever stop and think, and if my baby dies, what will I do with her?
yeah, because you don't have the benefit of having been able to think straight, do you? You can't. You're thrown into this situation. I mean, we didn't even have a name for Evie because we're just like, we weren't expecting her to survive, and it was too early. We hadn't even decided on a name before that, and then suddenly you're thrown into this situation. Let alone deciding, whether to bury her or, or what to do. You're sort of living in a bit of a kind of like mad world, aren't you?
Yes.
Where you just through each day. So, whatever decision you made was the right thing at that time, wasn't it? Because it's you just don't know what the hell to do. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing Evie's story.
No worries. It's lovely. It's always nice to hear. I don't know if you feel the same, but just to hear her name, it's really. I know a lot of people have said that to me before. It's just, just to be able to say her name is really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry it happened. It's very sad.
Yeah, it's just mad. And it would have been 10 years like last year when we were in lockdown, because we were going to do something special, but obviously it didn't kind of really didn't really materialize. But because we always try to do this every year, we try and celebrate, kind of either for a birthday, try and do something really nice and mark it, and then do something for the anniversary, which is 10 days later. And I just feel so much better when I'm away or doing things, because it was such a hideous, awful situation. I remember at the time thinking, oh my God, if we get through this, we have to be thankful that we can go away or do stuff or do something, just something good has to come out of a really hideous situation.
I like to go on holiday. I like to be away on Isabella's birthday as well. And last year, so in September, my contract came through in September for my new job. We were on holiday in the Lake District, and it had been raining, so there was a rainbow, and it was lovely, and I took loads of photographs because Isabella's my rainbow baby, but she's not my rainbow baby as like a people, what's the word I'm looking for, like she isn't I did lose 2 babies before Isabella, but obviously rainbow babies are babies that come after a loss and get to stay, but because she was buried in a rainbow baby grove, so now I just associate rainbows with her. I didn't want her to be buried in anything else than anything other than a baby grow, because I was thinking that she's going to be cold. She had a little hat and rainbow baby grow. But my paperwork came through offering me my job on the 23rd of September, which is Isabella's birthday. So my paperwork for my new job has her birthday on it. So I just saw that as sort of like a little sign.
It's those little things, isn't it? They mean so much, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I can't believe it's 7 years ago. Just, no. And it's, there's people that you meet at Sands. It's, we always said, didn't it? It was that group that you never wished that you were a part of, that you never, it was a club that you wish you weren't part of, but, you kind of, and I think the thing about Sands as well, all the groups, when we were at that time going to them, there was a lot of laughter as well, wasn't there? It was like, kind of, there was so many tears, but there was also like, just real kind of humor as well, and support. And it's sometimes you feel you can't have that, especially in the early days. I think you feel you're not allowed to laugh or have fun, or you feel guilty. And I think it's a place where you're with other people who understand totally what you're going through, and it's okay to laugh, and it's okay to to still get some
have
enjoyment.
a life.
you know, you feel so guilty about especially in the beginning, I think, and for new come and realize that that's okay, you know, and you know, and just to share your story, you always learn something from other people, I think, and
Oh
you know,
yeah, I've learnt and sort of use ideas and take advice from other people as well, which is nice. It's kind of like a baby group, but the babies aren't there.
yeah, yeah, no, it's so true. I can imagine, yeah, part of a NCT group or something like that, especially in those early days where you're sharing stuff, and everybody is different, aren't they? But you've got that common or you know similar thing that you've gone through,
Yeah,
and also to learn. I always found it really helpful as well. I don't know if this is useful information or relevant really, yeah, podcast, but I always found that, you know, it was lovely when partners came as well and they would
yeah,
talk about, because I think they would get something out of maybe us talking about physically going through the loss, and they think, oh, maybe my part, you know, oh, that must be how my partner might be feeling, and then vice versa, you know, they'd come along and, you know, and or we would learn, you know, something about from their perspective as the partner, and it was so useful to kind of and to understand that everyone grieves in different ways, don't they, and you
yes,
know, understand that, and you know, just because someone sits down and watches football or something, or it doesn't mean to say they don't care and they don't, you know, they're going through it in their way, um, and you know, and some people like to get back to work, others can't face it, and it's good to know that everything's okay. You know,
yeah,
there is no set rule about how to get over
no,
and stuff.
yeah. I mean, I know that Rob isn't Isabella's dad, but him coming to the groups really just sort of supported me, which was
Yeah,
nice. And then just
he
because
was
he isn't her dad doesn't mean that, you know, he can't take advice from the other
no,
sort of partners that go
yeah,
to the group.
I just remember being so supportive and come, you know, you would think that he was Isabella's dad, you know, the way
Hmm.
he, you know, supported and talked and listened to everyone. You know, it's a big thing to go along to a group as well, I think, as well. He was with you from the beginning almost of
Hmm.
that.
Definitely.
Yeah. I was
And
going to say
then I'm not
then.
sure whether, I don't think that you were at the group this one time, but so Rob and I have been trying to have a baby for a long time. We've now decided to stop trying. We were accepted into phase 2 of adoption, and we've decided that we don't want to do that anymore. It's just, yeah, it's just not what we want. And the whole point of the process is to filter out the people that aren't ready, or the people that don't actually want to adopt a child, and it's worked because it filtered us out.
Yeah.
So that's okay. But just before, so a couple of years ago, just before my brother got married, I actually had a positive pregnancy test. And then I started bleeding.
Mm,
So when I told group what had happened, like Ruth asked Rob, like, oh, how did you feel when Gab told you that, she'd had this positive pregnancy test, and then obviously, recently she started bleeding, so she's not pregnant. Um, he actually said, well, if I've learned anything, it was to not get my hopes up. And that crushed my heart that he
oh,
couldn't be excited because of everything that I had been through before. He's so aware that it could go wrong that
mm.
mhm, that was
But
horrible.
I, I think for everybody in, you know, who's gone through that, if you are lucky to have a subsequent pregnancy, whatever, it takes the whole joy of the situation, you know, no matter how hard you try, it's not the exciting, wonderful, like, you know, experience that you see a lot of other people go through, because there's constant fear, and it doesn't, you know, and also just being aware that it doesn't always end up in, it's like, I know, I don't know about you, but whenever anyone has a gender reveal party or
Oh
a
gosh.
thing, or any of these, and I just get so anxious about it, because I just think, oh my God, anything could happen, you know. Horrible way to feel, but I think we're just so aware of, because we've all, you know, had loss, but all gone through similar medical situations that have, and you know, we just, you know, you just don't allow yourself to. And I can remember with the second pregnancy as well, I remember the lady saying to me, do you realize what this is for? And I said, well, yeah, to check, you know, the baby, to check, you know, the heartbeat and things like that. She said, oh, that's good. She said, a lot of people think this is just to find out the sex of the baby, and anything can go wrong. And I think there is that general kind of feeling of, oh, you know, we're going along to find out, you know, not thinking ever that anything is going to go, you know, right. And, you know, it
must be so nice to be able to have that naivety, and you're
yeah,
just in your bubble, and
yeah.
you go for a 20-week scan, you're like, oh, we're going to find out what the sex is today, because why would there be anything wrong with my baby?
Yeah. And, you know, and I'm sure we all, to some degree, at some point, possibly felt that before we, you know, we went through what we do, you know, what we have to. Yeah, it does, it kind of takes the joy out of it, really, doesn't it, for people, and the kind of, from our experience, you know, it's quite a traumatic experience for a lot of people to go through.
So if you don't mind me asking, when you just said second pregnancy, so did you have a couple of losses?
So it was almost a year after Evie died. We had EVF, energy company, isn't it? IVF. And I, you know, I was a much older, you know, mom, and I knew that my time was running out. And so we had IVF, and I was pregnant again, kept it, didn't tell anybody. And then it was the second scan, where they took the measurements and things, something wasn't right. And Andy hadn't even come with me to the thing, because I said, I'm just going to go on my own, it'll be fine. And I didn't want to make a thing of it. I was really trying to play it down because of what we'd been. And I just wasn't expecting at all. And she said, I'm sorry, there seems to be a bit of a problem with, I need to refer you. And so we got I had to have I can't remember the name of it now, where they take fluid from the, I can't remember the name of it. And then we were referred up to London, and we had to go for all sorts of tests and various things. And it turned out that there was some serious medical problems with the baby. They didn't know whether she would survive. And obviously they can't tell you what to do, but it was either, you know, you may have a stillborn baby at full time, or, you know, the stats are really not looking good. And so we had to make a really painful decision then to go through a medical termination. I was just like, oh my God, I just don't think I can. I just thought, I can't go through it. But somehow, you know, you kind of, you're just numb. I think we were just numb to it all, and we just could not believe our luck, and that how could this, after it wasn't even a year. My biggest fear was that she was going to be born, or we were going to go through this thing on Evie's anniversary, and I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with it. And so yeah, unfortunately, ended up losing another baby.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You know, it wasn't even a year. It was just a month. It was 11 months after we'd lost Evie. So it was kind of pretty tough.
Pretty horrendous.
Yeah. In fact, in some ways, it was more traumatic than losing Evie. Going through, you know, a stillbirth basically is what, you know, 5 months. So yeah, it was pretty horrific. But I just remember just wanting to get out of that hospital. You know, I was just like, oh, I don't want to stay here. I just got to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just horrendous memories for me. But in the end, I kind of, they sort of gave you painkillers, and I pretty much overdosed on whatever was there. Give me everything. And I ended up being so sick that I ended up staying overnight, and then we just left really early in the morning and just were completely like in shock, really.
Does she have a name?
No, unfortunately, like we just couldn't. I think we couldn't deal with the fact that we'd lost another. I think now I would like to. We called her, kind of baby bump, but we never gave her a name. I think neither of us could actually deal with the grief of another loss again, and to put
another person.
Yeah, and I think it was denial for a long time, and then as time has gone by, I would really like to give her a name, and I think we probably will at some point. But yeah, I don't know what it was. I think I remember my doctor saying as well, just don't. This isn't the same as Evie, she kept saying. But on reflection now, the loss is the same, really. But at the time, I think we just couldn't deal with it. Yeah, it's just sometimes, and it's funny because even in groups, sometimes I didn't really like talking about when I got to be lead, not when I was going there.
Mm-hmm. We started to run the group.
Sort of do the groups. I don't know, you just don't want to be the kind of angel of doom almost. Like, I still wanted people to feel positive, you can do it, it's gonna work out, it doesn't always end like it has done for us. And
mm-hmm.
It's so hard, isn't it, because when people are already traumatized and trying to go through stuff, you think, oh, please let it work out, don't
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's kind of, yeah, it's a very different experience, but kind of traumatic in other ways.
Thank you for sharing it with me.
Oh no, thank you. Thanks for listening.
It was so lovely to be in Sands and not feel alone. But I always had this connection with you, and I don't know whether it was a BA connection or I don't know what it was. I always just had this invisible, only myself connection with you, and I think it was because you also don't have living children.
Yeah.
And so just so you know, it was always nice that you were there, because I also knew that you didn't have other children at home running around, or when we go to the Christmas service.
Yeah.
Everybody has their children, and it was just,
it's so painful, isn't it? Because it's a whole different level of grief, isn't it, of not having children to share that, especially at the Christmas thing. It was just so painful when you don't have children and you see everyone as much through the most hideous of loss as well. It's still difficult to relate sometimes to people, isn't it, when you don't have a living family.
So just know that if I saw your face, I was always just felt relieved that I wasn't on my own. And I know that's not very nice. I'm not saying that
No.
I'm pleased you don't have children. I just meant from a really selfish point of view, I never felt alone. There. And I would go to groups sometimes and feel somewhere that I used to not feel alone turned into a place where I sort of started to feel alone again.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. That's why I think it was it was lovely doing the group with Joelle, because we were both different people who'd gone through different circumstances. So hopefully there was someone that somebody could relate to, or we could share our experiences, and it would be different experiences and hopefully help different people at different times. It's so hard. It really is. It is hard, and I think it's a difficult one, especially those Christmas things. I was very torn as well. In the beginning, I was more torn. I think as the years went by and as I became a befriender myself, I tried to I don't really think about my situation. It was more about trying to make it a safe and kind of warm place for people to come to. But I was very much aware that how difficult it is for when you don't have. And I can remember feeling, it being so tough in those early days, going to, I can't remember what it was. It was a butterfly release, I think it was. There were so many young kids there and babies, and it's just, it's so painful, isn't it? When it just feels that everybody's got what you haven't, the one you want, and that your life is never going to be, you're never going to be able to enjoy life again. But different kind of life.
And I'm very happy, but this isn't like it's not how I pictured.
No, and it isn't, and it's not the way you thought your life would be. And that's one of the hardest things to get your head around, I think.
I know I'm not a befriender, but I know what you mean. If I used to sort of help host the Christmas service, yes, I'd be able to focus on the families coming in and say, "Oh, welcome to the service," and look after them.
Yeah, you're doing. You want to make it okay for them. You're not thinking about you, are you? You're not going there, and that's what Ruth myself and in the end, you're not there as a grieving mother, almost, are you? You're there to sort of make sure everyone is as okay as possible, and it gets you through by trying to do that, and you kind of. You have your moment afterwards or before or some other time, don't you? Yeah, but it is a whole different, I think as well, I don't know if you ever get that as well, but people make an assumption that you have had a choice not to have a family, and that can be a hard situation to deal with.
Yeah, I physically cannot get pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah. And yet people will make an assumption, they don't want to have children, or they just are busy, or they're always on holiday, or they have such a great,
that's us. And you.
It's like we do try and feel like they're kind of, we do that because of what we've been through, not, we didn't choose that life, so we're just trying to make the best of, of what's been dealt us, basically. Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking about Evie and your entire baby loss journey. I'm so sorry that we have it in common.
I know.
But just know that I was just always thought of you as just somebody that was just a little bit special, and I was a little bit closer to, even if you didn't feel the same, even if I never told you, but that is how I feel. So just thank you.
A massive compliment. Thank you very much. And you, Rob, I think you realise how much you gave to the group as well, by being honest and just being, sharing your how you're feeling, and just being so honest really helps people without you even knowing, if you know what I mean.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for finding and continuing to listen to the Baby Loss podcast. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast and share your baby story, or if you would like your baby loss charity featured, then please get in touch by searching Baby Loss Podcast on your podcast app, Facebook, Instagram and my YouTube channel. If you have been affected by today's episode, then please reach out. SANDS can be reached via their website sands.org.uk, spelt SANDS, their Facebook page and their helpline on 0808 164 3332. Oscar's Wish Foundation is a charity offering bereavement support to families in Sussex and throughout the UK. They can be found on Facebook. If you live in Gloucestershire, you can contact Footsteps Counselling and Care by visiting their website, Facebook page, or contacting their helpline on 01452 308 618. If you require immediate support, you can call the Samaritans 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for free on 116 123. Thank you for listening and see you next time.